Hello, welcome to my MicroCamp 2022 talk, Blank Page, Full Pen, Can't Lose, Journaling for Mindfulness. My name's Halsted. I use she, her pronouns, and I have been journaling for decades now, but I'm not here as an expert. I'm here as an enthusiast. I want to share my love of journaling with you and share how I think it can help with mindfulness, bringing our attention to the present moment, experiencing and observing without judgment. So first, because we're talking about mindfulness and by extension, our mental state, I will note now that I am not a mental health professional nor a medical professional, and this information is provided for your educational use only. If you're in the US like I am, call 911 if you or someone you know is in immediate danger or go to the nearest emergency room. And I've also included the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline in both English and Spanish here. So, when we talk about mindfulness in regards to journaling, what are we talking about exactly? It really depends on what your goals are. So, you might want to strengthen your memory and recall by documenting the events of your day. You might be, like I am, a writer and want to improve your writing skill by describing your internal state or the state of the world around you. You might have been given the guidance to write a journal to reduce your stress and anxiety by documenting your mental state. You might want to set goals and break them down into smaller tasks that you can achieve or track your positive habits. All of these journaling goals can lead to mindfulness, and they can also lead to frustration, dejection, and overwhelm if we don't make a few simple choices before we start. And here on this slide, I've included my current day one streak. Day one is a journaling app we'll be talking about a little later. It's 796 days. That's the longest streak I've ever done with anything. And so I'm including it here as a little humble brag. We'll talk about day one a little later. So mindful journaling comes down to a choice. I think it's actually three choices. So first, we're going to choose our style of journaling. One example of a style is Ryder Carroll's bullet journaling, where we choose a format and process to guide our journaling way. Next up, and perhaps most excitingly for some of us, we'll talk about how we choose our journaling tools. So we'll talk pens and notebooks, but we'll also talk about some apps. And last, we choose when we'll journal, because I recommend making this a daily habit, and I have some advice about doing that. The time of day can also matter too, so we'll talk about that as well. So first up, we choose our style. And this picture on this slide, I took of one of my traveler's journals that has a small pencil sketch of something I saw while visiting Culloden in Scotland, alongside a standard journal entry like this is what I did today, etc. This style is really good for travel journals, but it might not be our best choice if day to day our scenery doesn't change all that much. I just recommend you choosing a style that is comfortable for you. So if you love making lists, bullet journaling is a solid choice. It supercharges list making. But please don't look at Pinterest or Reddit before you do this to look for perfect Bujo layouts, because that way lies super overwhelm. There's also gratitude journaling. Every night before bed, I write down 3 things that happened that I'm grateful for. These can be anything like the winter daphne bush is blooming, or I felt heard and seen when I was going through a rough time, or I love sushi. Gratitude journaling is a great place to start for mindfulness. There have been so many studies on the neuroscience of gratitude journaling, how simply documenting things we're grateful for can improve our mental health. Let's talk about some other styles. Julia Cameron's concept of morning pages in the artist's way is a very popular style. So we get up every morning and write 3 pages longhand, anything at all. I'm a very slow hand writer, so 3 pages longhand takes me about an hour. But I can cram in about 10 minutes into my morning. So I have a modified practice where I sit quietly with my eyes closed for 3 minutes, and then I write anything at all longhand for 7 minutes. And that works out to a long paragraph. When I start my day like this, I found that I'm able to be more present throughout the rest of it. Just 10 minutes in the morning, just 10 minutes. Another style is the daily log. You can use a page a day or a pocket-sized notebook. Anything you can carry reliably with you will work. The idea behind a daily log is capturing those bits and bobs that rattle around in our brain pans before we lose them. When we log our days, we can discern patterns in what we do and what we aren't doing. And in a daily log, we can log things like water intake, exercise, books we've read, etc. I find it most useful to log my mood. And I recently learned about something I really want to share with you. It's called the Mood Meter by Mark Brackett and David Caruso. If you search the web for Mark Brackett, that's Brackett, and his book Permission to Feel, you'll find a PDF on his website of the Mood Meter, which has moods based on energy and pleasantness. So, example, peaceful is a high pleasantness, low energy mood, while worried is high energy and low pleasantness. I'm starting to use these moods in my daily log instead of just putting words like angry or happy for my day. So our next choice is choosing our tools. We love talking about tools on Micro.blog. And if you follow me on Micro.blog, you know that I favor analog tools like notebooks and fountain pens over digital ones. But again, like choosing a style, choose the tools you want to use, the tools you'll enjoy using over the new hotness. And this is not going to be a comprehensive overview of all the tools out there, just the ones I've used and can recommend. So for my daily log, I use an A6 Hobonichi Taicho planner, which has a page a day. And when I say a page a day, and this is, I'll just go to an open spread in August. So you see, there isn't very much space, but this really meets my needs because I don't need too much to just log my day or log my moods or things that I've eaten or things that I want to do or remember. I just need a little bit of space. So this works for me. I have it in a cover here, but you don't have to have a cover. It's quite sturdy. Something that you might enjoy about this, if you are a fountain pen user like I am, is that this is Tomoe River paper. So it is not only very thin, and it has very satisfying sound to it when you squish it between your fingers, but it also stands up very well to a wide variety of fountain pen ink and doesn't really ghost. And it is generally a pleasure to use. The surface of the paper is very smooth, so if you're using a fountain pen, or even if you're using a rollerball with gel ink or any other gel pen, it's going to be a very, literally frictionless experience, but it will be a very enjoyable experience. And one of the things that I've noticed for myself is that I need to really enjoy and treasure using the tools that I have. Otherwise, I won't do it. Some people prefer a smaller size. So here's a pocket size. This is the size of what we might call a field notes size, although I'm not using a field notes in here. But just for comparison's sake, this is the size. If you are a pocket person, you like to just shove things in a pocket, this might be your jam. It's got a pocket. I have a pocket fountain pen with it attached with an ollie clip, which is a magnetic clip. And this is something that you can easily put in a pocket somewhere. And again, just log your day. For my gratitude journal, I use an A5 Leuchtturm's 1917 5-year diary. And so again, I have it in a little cover here, but just to give you an example, there isn't very much space for each of the days, which means that I don't get too stymied by having to fill it up with gratitude. It's very easy to put 3 things with a little bit of detail for my gratitude journal, and that's what I use for that. For morning pages, I use an A5, so again, that A5 size, which is more of what we're thinking about a normal notebook size. An A5 size notebook, again in a cover. I'm very rough on notebooks, so I always keep them in covers because I toss them into a bag, toss them around, occasionally accidentally sit on them. You know the deal. This is from Nanami paper. It's called the 7 Seas Crossfield. It has 480 pages of Tomoe River paper in a 5mm dot grid. It is, again, I don't know if you heard that page turning. My microphone isn't probably that good, but It is a very satisfying paper to use. It's a good size. This is also one of those lay flat books. The Techo is the same. So if you have a book with a binding that just naturally lays flat, for me, it's a much more enjoyable experience to write in. In the past, though, for morning pages, I've used a digital tool called 750words.com. And the reason why it's 750 words is because that's roughly the same number of words in 3 pages of longhand writing. So that site was created and informed. It was created by Buster and Kelly Benson, and it was informed by that morning pages writer's way practice that Julia Cameron created. So if you like online tools like that, 750words.com is a great thing to look at. You can also use Day One, and Day One I mentioned earlier. Day one for morning pages, day one for gratitude. So what I do is when I write my 3 things in gratitude, I also copy them into my day one. And I put a picture, if I've taken a picture that day, or some other thing that I'm listening to. I might put a link to a song. And so the day one repository for me is really all about gratitude and things that I've experienced, as opposed to it being my journal that everything goes into. You can use Day One however you want. It's a great app. It's for Mac OS, iOS, and Android now. And I highly recommend that you look at that. Take a look. And also, I can't not mention fountain pens, of course. I mean, I've mentioned them a few times, but on the slide is a picture of a TWSBI Eco. And it's sitting atop 2 Hobonichi Techos from 2019 and 2020. These tools, they provide me with an enjoyable, frictionless experience like I already talked about. This allows me to stay present as I write and to enjoy the actual physical act of writing. That might not be your deal, and that's totally okay. You might have a super awesome mechanical keyboard that makes a wonderful noise that you really relate to. But we're looking for tools that keep us in the present moment so that we are actually experiencing the work of journaling as it's happening, as opposed to popping too far out of the present moment. So whatever we choose, make it as enjoyable and frictionless as possible, or we will talk ourselves out of doing it. And another way of reducing friction is to decide when to journal and to stick with that time. So that could mean setting a reminder for a half hour before bedtime, or setting our alarm clock to wake up a half hour earlier, whatever works. So for me, what works is waking up a little earlier in the morning for my morning pages practice, and then taking a few minutes before bed and doing the gratitude journaling. For you, it could look like a half hour at lunchtime, a mid-afternoon break. It could look like every other day. I just recommend that you choose a schedule that works for you and stick with it. And to do this, I recommend starting with 1 sentence a day. And that might seem incredibly, incredibly small, and it is. But the idea is to make it doable so that you won't talk yourself out of it and won't be overwhelmed. And I would just say, take 1 sentence a day, do it every day. And after a while, naturally, we want to write a little more, because the experience, if we've chosen our style and our tools that are enjoyable and frictionless, we'll want to do it more and more and more. This is better than setting a lofty goal like, gotta do 3 pages longhand, and then never being able to hit that mark. So when we make that space for just a little bit, just 1 sentence of mindful journaling every day, we're committing to staying present not only with ourselves, but with our loved ones and with our communities. Instead of lingering in the memory of the past or fixating on the promise of the future, we're here now with each other. We see ourselves and each other with greater clarity and greater empathy when we practice mindfulness through journaling. So that's my talk today. I hope I've given you something to think about, or at least I've given you some pretty pictures of pens. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions or comments. Thank you so much for listening, and enjoy your journaling for mindfulness.